Right, hi guys, welcome back.
Welcome everybody.
Okay, right. Now I'm going to carry on a little bit now about with the catches, okay, with Carbide. So it's another bit of a chatty sort of video, which I know that's going to make you happy, Michael Wilson. I know you like the chatty videos. The longer the better, you always say. The others say just shut up and get on with it. Right, what I'm going to do today, mostly I'm going to talk about one of the chisels most people will get all the catches with, and they do, I know, is the detail one, the good old detail chisel. Yeah. Let me just clean that off. It's a bit used. Right, okay, this is this one, the detail chisel, okay. And I know some people say, because I tend to prefer, and my tools all go out with the rounded tip one, okay. That's what I do, the slight radius on it. I find this a lot easier for people to use in what they're doing. You do get pointy ones, and I do have them. For myself, this is a pointy one, okay, and I know you can get really pointy ones. I don't tend to use them because I don't use them for just sticking in. This one I use a lot for a certain job that I do, and yeah, it's used a hell of a lot, that one. Probably the most used chisel with out of the Carbides. Right, so a couple of little recaps, like I said. With don't get me wrong on this, like I said, if you want to use your Carbides and just scrape with them, that's fine. But if you're getting catches, like I said, the worst thing you can do is put your tool on center. If you've got your tool, and it's what people are told, and I know a lot of people say it, a hell of a lot of people say it, just because a lot of people say something doesn't make it right. If your tool is on dead center, so your cutting edge, your square, round, whatever, is on dead center line with your tool like this, you've only got the slightest bit of movement to go before you go below center, or you go above, but you don't really go above center. What you'll do is you'll come in with an unsupported cut which goes up and it will grab, okay. That's what happens on the wood. If this is your, I've got a pencil line on this. Can you see it? Can you see the pencil line?
Yep.
Right. So if you're set up to cut dead on centre like this, if you just happen to accidentally drop your handle a little bit, your cutter starts to go up. That tiny little bit is enough for that to actually want to dive in. And if you go the other way and you accidentally lift your handle, you're going to go below centre. Okay? And that's not a good place to be. The ideal place is to set your tool rest, so your tool is around about 5 to 6 mil above the centre line, and we're not talking inches, we're not talking loads of stuff here, that does for other things, but if you're just this tiny bit above the centre and you just raise your handle slightly, then you come down to there. That's, but if you want to use it for scraping, but in order to, these are not scrapers, and they do not work well as scrapers, okay. I don't care what anyone says, they're wrong, okay. Now the reason I'm so against it as well, like I said, it will blunt your tools a lot quicker. Why? Because of the finish. See, when you've got like this with bevels, and we take this away, it leaves us with a very fine edge here, okay. And it's the same with the Carbide. Because they have a bevel, because they're designed for cutting. Now this is what it's anything that has a bevel is designed to cut, not scrape, okay. Any tool manufacturer will tell you a bevel is because it needs to cut, okay. Now when they do the bevel and this comes away, it causes a weakness on the edge, because it's a bit like if you're on a cliff and you've got a nice soil top cliff, and it's got a straight, so it comes across and it's straight down or goes out this way, you stand on the edge here and you'll be very safe. But when that cliff becomes a bit undercut here, you stand there and you crumble, you go, okay. It's no different, it's a weakness. If it was designed to scrape, it would really be nigh on square, okay. That would give it strength. That's why we know it's not actually a scraper, it has a bevel. They've always been designed to cut. It just causes a weakness. It's a bit, see, and this is what I say, when you roll the tool and you come over, you then get the support of all the underneath metal. It's a bit like you get a piece, just got a piece of square flat metal, look, see. Now when we put this up this way, or even slightly we couldn't bend that no matter what we try doing. We're not going to bend that, okay? But the minute you go flat, you just bend it, okay? There's no strength there, and it's no different to your edge. So carbide is a very, very strong material, okay, and it will last a long time. But if you're scraping, it's dulling from the first cut you're making with it, okay? And you'll all know, you've got your carbides, you know, because if it doesn't happen, then you would never buy replacement cutters, would you? And you'll know, you get them and you'll go and you'll make your first finish and you'll, oh, it's fantastic. Oh, just peels wood. That's nice finish. Yeah. Then you'll get about 3 or 4 goes in, and it's not cutting as well. You're pushing a little bit harder. That's where you'll get your catches and stuff. And it's not because it's dulling. But believe me, if you just use it to cut, it will last. I can't say how many times longer. I don't know. I've never been that bored to do a comparison on the two, but I know cutting, it lasts a hell of a lot longer. It's the same with your bowl gouges. If you scrape across your bowl, you will sharpen before you finish that bowl. If you only cut with it, you won't sharpen that bowl gouge. You'll do the outside, the inside, finish, cut everything, and not have to sharpen your bowl gouge. I've done it, I've proved it. So right, let's get on with what we're doing. We're doing about a little bit on the detail. Okay, detail can do some fantastic stuff. It really can, and that's what I want to talk about, the detail chisel. Okay, now I've done some little, I was hoping to have a bigger piece of this sapele. I haven't got any bigger bits of sapele, so I've prepared these 2 bits. Okay, I'm not turning a bowl, I'm just preparing, it's just so I can show you the cuts. Now you can see this is quite rough, just left it as a rough cut. Okay, right, that's all I'm doing with it. But I'm going to pop it on. I'm just going to pop it back onto this worm screw. I love worm screws, okay? I've said I never use faceplate. I don't like faceplates. I would never use a faceplate. For me personally, never. Let's say if there was a situation where I've got no other way I could hold it, and that would be the only thing, then I might use one. But for me personally, no, they're not my thing. Okay. Like I've always said before, screws are designed to hold things together. They don't have strength in that. Okay. And not only that, if you put your piece on a faceplate, you're locking it. It doesn't have a way of giving. It only has a way of snapping the screws to come off, or something worse has to happen, because if you get a catch, especially for new turners, if you get a catch, you're in trouble. If you get a really bad, now softer woods a bit easier with, but if you get a catch on a worm screw and it happens to strip it will strip. If it's a bad catch, because it's metal in wood, it will strip the threads, and there's a chance that would spin. That reduces that catch down, and no problem, no bowls flying, no injuries, no nothing. That's why I think they're better. Okay, but if you listen to what I do and do what I say, you'll never get a catch. This is so you can go out in your workshop and turn with no catches. Okay, when you don't have to think about, oh, am I going to get a catch here? Your turning just becomes fun and enjoyable, and all you've got to concentrate on then is making stuff. Okay, now without any silly comments, I'm going to put my hat on, because like I say, I wash my hair.
Someone actually made a comment. Wash and go, they
put me conditioner and that on, so I don't get any knots in it. Right, okay, now the detacher. I have actually seen, and some people, where they've used these to rough down bowls, okay, because they can't get their tools presented right. They're very hard wood, they can't do it, and they're in here using it like a scraper to do a bowl. I've said before, go stupid is as stupid does. I mean, you got a couple of mil point there, and you're letting wood pound down on it. It's not what it's for. You can turn a bowl with it, but I wouldn't recommend turning it that way as scraping. Now, again, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get centre on here first. So I'm just going to very quickly spin it up and put a little dot here for centre. There we go, there's our centre. That makes it easy, doesn't it? See, some things you just think about it.
Just do it, yeah.
Right, so you can see where I am. Tool. If my tool's parallel, okay, this is where I'll be cutting. Okay, I'm not masses above centre. I'm just above. Okay, probably about centre's actually in the middle of that. So about 4 to 5 mil. Yeah, about 4 to 5 mil above centre. That works. Now, this is only a small piece, but it works the same on big bowls. Face shield on. Always remember, don't ever turn without one. And you don't want to breathe things like sapele and stuff in. It can be a very dusty wood. Nothing to do with the tools you're using or the cuts you're making. Right, now the detail chisel. So many people think. Sorry, I shouldn't put it out. So many people think. There's my button. So many people seem to think it's just a push in, make lines, make grooves, do things like that. Roll a bead, yeah, you can just come in and do this and roll a bead. That's what it is. It's not an ideal tool to use flat because it widens quite rapidly, and as you go in it will bind up on the side. So if you try pushing this into a piece of wood, it will bind up very quickly. And it's a shame because I've had so many people, they used to say, can I swap the detail chisel for a box hollower out of the set and things like that? And you're missing out on so much. This tool is not just for it's probably wrong to call it a detail tool, but it's the closest thing I would say to a carbide detail gouge, spindle gouge basically. But this would be a detail with, you don't even get a tip that small, and that's such a small bevel. It's fantastic. Absolutely brilliant tool, can do so much. Right, we've got this small bowl on, okay, and I would recommend, if you're going to practice this, do any of these cuts, give them a try, see what you think. Okay, tool rest above center. We've seen where I am. Right, give these a try, these cuts. Get yourself a small piece of wood like this, go in your workshop, don't try to make something, try to turn without getting catches. Right, okay, so I'm going to be using this on a bowl and show what this can do. Now, I'm above centre, okay, and I'm dropping my handle, and I can come in and if I roll it over, look, we've got a bevel there, I can pick up a cut, the same, okay, I can pick up cuts like this, and I can do a push cut, bevel control. But as you see, I am above centre, but if I'm going to do a push cut, I need to have my handle up more level, but I am still above centre. Right, and all we do is we rotate it, so it's just there, look, it's bevel control. Now the problem with push cuts, like I said, when we get to here, is the end grain bounces when you're pushing on a bevel. When you get here and you're pushing on, it bounces back a little bit, so you've got to be careful there. Right, I'm going to pick the cup again here. Right, we're into a push cut. Don't push on. When it's a push cut, let's get this going. Okay, I've done it nice and slowly so you can see it. Now, the benefits of being so high, like above centre. Now we've got not a bad colour, because still got a bit of tear out here. We will do, because it's the wood. But we'll finish that in a bit. But you can see what finish we've got. We've got quite a smooth finish. That's done with a detail chisel. I mean, come on. That's only got, what's that? 1.5 mil tip? Right. The reason being above centre is because when we start that cut here, my tool is parallel here, right? Okay, we're parallel to the bit. When I come in and I roll this here, as you can see there, look, that's a full bevel contact. That's all bevel, okay? That bevel there is in full contact with the wood. And all I need is the slightest, like I say, if I come in here, bevel, okay, slightest turn, and there picks up a cut, okay. And I'm using, it's a very, very small bevel on this. It's beautiful. Now, I wouldn't use it for making big long cuts because it doesn't have a very long bevel, but it can make cuts like that. As you've seen, we can do a push cut. If you was on centre, well, I just wouldn't recommend on centre, because you'll be on centre, you'll have to raise it to come in, because otherwise the bevel doesn't fit, does it? because it slopes, it can't go in on centre. And if you just turn it, so if we was bang on centre and we just turn it, what we'd be doing is we'd be cutting just on the tip and coming round like that. No control, no way of controlling the depth other than you, and that you'll get in trouble so quickly because you just have to make the slightest movement, especially if you're not quite steady with your hands, or you're putting your hand on the tool rest and you're coming along. It's, you know, it's just no good. You're going to get catches. And like I said, if you're on centre and you drop your handle just slightly, you don't get bevel contact under there. You haven't dropped the handle enough, it's just a slight bit, and as soon as you do that, it wants to dig in, okay? And that's where your catches are. Your catches are because you don't have a bevel. All catches, every catch you will ever get is because the bevel's not being used, okay? If you're using your bevel, you cannot get a catch. It's what stops you getting catches. So what we're going to do, again, we can put a tenon on with this. We can come in here. Now again, when we do here on this cut, we can just slice in, look. And as we slice in, because of the height of the tool, you can see where centre is down there. And I'm cutting up here, okay? And I can come in and make these nice little slice cuts. Now, majority of people, if they're going to put a tenon on, they would use this like this and scrape and think, well, this has got the angle. But again, if you're scraping and there's room for getting a catch. With this, when I come on here and I roll it, I can get a perfect tenon there, okay? And you want to clean up this side. Don't scrape back, I've shown it before. Come in, drop your handle, and you can do it coming out. You want to clean it up going in, then again we do it as a peeling cut. So we get our little lip and then we follow in and we come down and we do a peeling cut. But we have our bevel in control. And there's the finish on that bottom, okay? Cleans it up beautifully. If we just scrape back, we're going to just tear up the grain. And all that is, when we put our cutter here, you can see where centre is. Look, they're telling you should always work down. I'd have to lower the tool rest, and I don't want to lower it at the moment, so I've got it nice height. Right, I'm set at that height, but what I'm doing is I'm dropping my handle so my bevel comes into contact. I pick up the cut, make a little, basically a little shelf. The bevel goes on it, and then all I do is I lift my handle. As I go in, I lift my handle so it can come down, but the bevel stays in contact all the time. So when I get to the finish of the cut, the bevel is actually in contact there, okay? I don't want to raise my handle, come in, and when I reach that I'm on the tip, because that's where there's a potential for a grab, okay? But now we've put a nice little tenon on that. Now we've got, right, let me just, I'm going to come round now. I'll let you just watch what I do with the tool, okay? So I drop my handle and I'm coming round here, look. And all I'm doing is I'm just coming round, okay? And I'm going to take that corner off like so. And all I'm doing, I'm coming in, my bevel's in contact, okay? Because I'm here where there is there, no contact, no cutting. And all I'm doing is brushing it around, okay? And I've used my bevel. Now I want to come across and clean this front up a little bit. So I'm going to bring my tool rest in, nice and close. Now I like these tool rests because I'll talk about that, because I know a lot of people like those robust and things like that, and a lot of you will have, oh hang on, look, you can see how dusty this is, look, you can see how much that gets used. Right, a lot of people have these tool rests. Now the only problem with these is when they're right up close, you don't get as much to put your tool on here. Now even though the tool only goes on centre, because that's wider, I still get it on. But don't think you have to clear all this. I turn here, this is where, look, all this is on the tool. My tool rest is not used for the tool being on like that, okay? Because as I said, you've always got this. My tool rest is for me to rest the tool. I have tried to do these cuts that I'm showing you here without a tool rest, but the trouble is when you come on, it always skips. Okay, doesn't bang down, doesn't go, it skips. So I have to have the tool rest. It's not there for the tool this way, it's there for me to rest my tool against here. So I like this sort of size. So although I've got it that close, it doesn't matter to me because I'm actually resting on this bit here when I'm cutting. Okay, and that's why I prefer a big round tool rest to one of these, or like the robust one. If you got that, you might have to pull it back a little bit, but then you're giving yourself a gap. There's somewhere for something to go. If there's a gap, you can guarantee something to fall in it. Right, okay, so I'm going to start this up. So I've got these lines on here. How am I going to get rid of them? This tool has got to be one of the best for getting a finished cut. All we do is we come in, we drop our handle, we come on here, and we come along. And this tool gives an absolute beautiful shape. I'll go this way so you can see it better. It's not the way to cut, but we're cut down, right? Now, when you're cutting this cut, you don't go downhill. It should always be uphill, because when you get to the downward bit, it will run in front of you, okay? So, down to the crest there, okay? That's before it actually gets onto this bit of the slope. And then put my tool rest over again. Let me move it up there, give myself a little bit of room. Okay, handles drop, I come on, I've got bevel control, there's my bevel. Okay, the slightest little movement, I'm still on the bevel, and I come across. Okay, and that, I've got that tiny line there, I'm just going to blend that. Nice and gentle. Okay, it's just there, that's on this bit, so I can come in and get that. There we go, that's gone. So did we clean it up? It feels clean. Yeah, look at that finish. Yeah? Yeah. That's the finish that the detail tool can give us. It's like that. Okay? Right, so that's what we can do with it on bowls. I would not recommend it for hollowing bowls. It's not for that. Okay, I wouldn't use it in that way, not at all. Now, when we want to start doing, I'm going to take this off. Actually, come back with me when I've got this all off and I've got my step centre on. Right, okay guys, I've changed this all over, I've put a little spindle on. Now, as you can see, we've put a foot on that and we cleaned it up. We got a nice shear cut. We ain't done no sanding, no nothing like that. I haven't gone over the top. There are other little things you can do there for getting an absolute perfect cut with that, but at the moment I'm not wanting to go into that far into it, and there's some little things that I've got to keep for me. Yeah. Right, so we can put a foot on, we can do a tenon quite easily, we can come around the bottom, we can do that, and we can push cut with it. We can do a push cut on the outside. Nice little pots. Can you do it on a big bowl? Yes, you can. You can do it on any size bowl. It doesn't matter, but you'd be taking a long time to come up a big bowl with a tiny little cutter like that. Okay, but if it was a situation where you needed to, it can be done. Right. So now, what about on spindle work? Because most people think this is just literally push in, roll a little bead like this. Okay, and again, I'm above centre here. Now, if we go, and I will show it again. So if I put this, which would be dead on centre, it's just a tiniest little bit more. There we go. So if I was to have this dead on centre and I come in here, as you can see, look, I've still got all that crumb. I'm going to just clean that off. Now, if you want for cleaning off your carbide, a brass, this one's nearly worn out. Look, it's a nice soft brass wire brush. It won't hurt it in any way. Okay, don't really want a steel wire brush on there. Right, okay. There we go. Cleaned it up there. Right, so now if you look here, and I'm set, so I'm going to take a little mouthful of coffee. Mouth gets a bit dry when you're talking so much, and I just don't shut up. Right, anyway, there, we're on centre now. As you can see, well, if I come in on the centre line, which would be there, I've got no bevel contact. Okay, there's no bevel contact there.
No.
And
just on the point.
That right, so that would be centre line. And as I said, if you stand, I mean, come on, we're standing here holding a tool this big, probably got it on your body and everything. If you drop your handle a little bit, it's going to want to do that, and it's going to want to dig in. Once it starts, it's just like it wants to run in. That's it. If you come up, you're going below centre. Not so bad with my tool rest where it is, but most you'd have your tool rest about there. Okay, so if you go below centre, straight away, slight drop below centre, it does that every single time. It does that. Look, if I raise my handle, it's going to pull me under. On centre, yes, it will do its scraping. Oh, that's horrible. And you're just going to ruin your tip. You drop your handle just slightly, and again you start to get there, it's digging in, and then it's over. Right, so get the tool rest up. Now I have some lines on mine. I've spoken before. I just do them with a little hacksaw, just put some lines in for different tool heights. Now this is the one I tend to use 90% of the time. Okay, if I need some carbide on centre, it's this line here. If it's the 12mm bars, it's this line here. Okay, that's what they're for. The hole in there is simple thing. If I'm doing a lot of something repetitive, that's on a centre line for me. That sits in there. I can just all I do is put a drill bit in it. I just drop it in that hole, and then if I'm doing something where I'm constantly, say I'm doing here, then I need to quickly swing my tool rest round, I just use that, because I can go like that, turn it round and do that. I don't want one of those Sorby screw things that you raise it up and too much fluff, isn't it? Too much fluff. Don't want all that. Simple thing, drill a hole in it, do that. If you wanted another one, I actually do have another one there, which is very slightly higher, just slightly. In wood turning, quite often half a millimetre or a millimetre is a lot. Okay, that hole's there, and I have another one which is a fraction higher. That one's under the line, that one's on and just over the line. So I have two, depending on what tools I'm using. So I can go in that way and that way. You could drill another hole there with depths if you want. It's up to you what you want to do. That does not weaken my tool rest in any way. Okay, mostly I go on that first line down there, bosh, like so. Right, tool rest, as I say, I always keep it as close as I can. Okay, now I'm above centre and I come on. Now when I come on here, right, if I come in dead straight like that, I'd be scraping. I just, that tiny little drop, bevel, look at that. Yeah. Full bevel contact. And that, all I've done is drop my handle that tiny little bit, because centre is basically where the wood is flat. That's the only flat piece of bit of wood on this. Spit that out. That's the only flat surface on this piece of wood, excluding the ends, because this is round. Okay, so when I'm bang on centre, then the cutter is onto a flat piece of wood, but it's a very fine line from under and above. Everything from centre line up curves over, and everything from centre line down curves under. You don't want to be under, you want to be on the over. So this slopes. Okay, this slopes up, so that slope has to fit onto that slope. There we go, two slopes fitting together. Okay, no catching. Drop my handle, pull my handle away, and I go into this scrape. Okay, not a nice place to be, but if you need to do the odd little one, you can. Right, where I'm there and my bevel's in contact, okay, with just the slightest. I don't want to be, I can, depend on what cuts I was doing. Now if you're using a skew chisel, And sometimes if you're doing say a finial, it's better to have the tool rest even higher. Then you can't scrape. You'll be up, say, here. So when you put your tool parallel, your bevel automatically comes into contact. You can't go off of it, okay, unless you tip your handle right up. And then when you're at that point, as soon as you roll it, you cut. But I'm going to show that in a minute. Don't be impatient, just wait. Right, so we're here. We drop our handle, our bevel's on, okay. Now all we have to do is rotate, and straight away, just the same as the other tools, it starts to cut. It's a bit harder to see on the detail chisel because it is such a fine cutter, but I'll show it in a turn so you can see it. That would be much better, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Right. And I've put all these lines in here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to clean them off first.
Yeah.
And the way I'm going to clean them off, I'm going to come in here. Give myself a nice smooth surface to work with. Now, tool rest handle can sometimes get in the way there. Take it off that side. Right, here we go, this way. So you can see what it's doing. Okay, and there we go. We should have cleaned up that surface. Yeah, look how clean that is. Okay, right, now, like I was saying, bevel comes on. Here's my bevel. Just rotate the handle and we can make some cuts. And we can have a bevel control. If we want to do chamfering our ends, I normally would use this on smaller pieces of wood than this. Okay, we can come around this side and we can start to come in. We just pick our cut up, putting our bevel on, get rid of that, and come down. Now, I'm not turning anything as such, I'm just doing some shapes, okay? What you should do, just practice. Now most people, if they're going to roll a bead with it, they'd come in and start doing sort of this. To put a bead in there. And then scrape away this edge and scrape away this edge, like so. That's not going to be a very nice finish on it, and it's not really the nicest way to do a bead, okay? So if you want to do the bead, all we have to do, we've got our bevel on, is rotate our cutter over and come in, bring it out and come over and go in again, bring it out and come over and come away. Now we get a bead. Now we can come back this way and just, sorry, a little skip there, come back in this way, there we go. We just drop it down and we tidy that up, and here if we want to just get in a little bit more, tidy that, there we go, and we can roll a bead that'll give us a nicer finish on it. Let's have a look at them. Right, yeah, this one is a little bit torn at the sides here, a bit torn there. This one ends up nice and smooth. If you want deeper bead, just go in a bit deeper, make more cuts of it. Don't try to do it all in one pass. Just come back and take another one and just go a little bit deeper. And with this side, just come in and go a little bit deeper there. Right, we're into that, and then we've got to come here and cut that off. So, and we start to form our bead a bit deeper. Okay. A cove, right, if you want to do a cove, again, the handles drop, there's a bevel, no cutting, and all we're going to do is rotate in and come in. Get that bit, there it jumps off. Remember, a cove, we come in to the centre, into the centre. So if we do it and we've got bevel control, and it's a little bit, don't want that tool on your body, okay? If it's on your body like this and you're like this, you do not have freedom of movement or control, because as we come in, you see my handles drop down there. I put the bevel on and I pick up the cut. I now, as I come down to the middle, I rotate my handle here so that my bevel actually, as I come down, I fit into here.
with my bevel, okay? Now, again, when I'm doing that, what you've got to be clear on, what you've got to be clear about, when I do that, so when I come in, you can see the finish, look, beautiful clean finish on it. When I come into the, here, I slice in, bevel's in contact, actually you'll probably see it better that side. Slice in, bevel's in contact, okay? Start the cut, I come down. I'm not going to maintain that through the curve because the bevel, even a small bevel like that, is going to end up going heel and tip. Right, so as I cut and I come in, I need to rotate my handle, okay? And I come onto the bevel here. Now, if you try to do something like that on the centre line, what you will do is when you rotate like that, you'll come open, unsupported cut, in it go, and bang. The reason I can do it with my handle dropped is because I'm above centre. So look, you can see how high above centre I'm cutting, okay? The centre's right down here. As I cut in, as I come down and I rotate and I open, when I get to this point, I've got a bevel contact still, okay? At the moment it's sitting on top. If I actually make a cut there, let me just make that cut. Because at the moment, yes, the bevel here, and there's no cutting, right? When I cut here, and I come in, right. So because I've made that initial cut there, so anything above that height, as long as my bevel stays on there, everything above where that bevel's sitting will be removed, okay? So that's why when I come down to there, although my bevel would not be, because this wood's obviously got to move, if you put the bevel on there and you just turn it, it's not going to ever cut anything. But the bevel's sitting on the lower part of the wood, not the higher part. So when it comes to the middle and I open up, it won't catch because the bevel's on this piece of wood, and as I said, if the bevel's on, no matter how hard I push and push, it will never dig in. If I take the bevel off and I push, I put my point straight in. That's the importance of the bevel. That's catches. Catches cannot happen as long as you've got bevel control. Okay? And it is as simple as that. And this, as I say, I'm just above centre and I'm here and I'm working and I'm dropping my handle a little bit and I'm going round. Now, if I was going to be doing say finials, because a lot of you like to do finials, there's no better tool. There really is. I know they do these detail spindle gouges and stuff, and pretty much if you got a detail spindle gouge, I haven't got a real detail one because I don't tend to use it. This would be swept back, most of mine, okay? On small things, if I'm doing finials, and you'll have swept back even further than this, some of them sweep it right back, okay? That bevel cannot be on the wood, okay? I'm trying to keep it here so you can see it. That bevel would not be on the wood, and when you're doing the small bits, you'll be here and you'll be on the tip, okay? An unsupported cut, and you'll be holding it and doing this sort of like trying to get this bit of wood ready and we'll show it. We'll show it.
Show it.
Right, so I'm just going to put that on there. Yeah, roughly centred. That's roughly enough centred. Right, I've got to get it round first, so I'm going to do that very, very quickly. There you go, that's round. I'll just clean it up. I want to get it quite small. There, we'll go down to there. Right, okay. So now, if I was going to turn some finials, what I will do is bring my tool rest up even more. So I'm up to here. So now, you can see where I am, I'm on the top. My bevel is in contact all the time, and I'm going to be working down like this, okay? So my bevel's in contact from the off. When I come on, I'm there. I cannot, unless I raise my handle up here and do that, I can't scrape it. Okay, so I really don't want to be scraping, not on finials. And as this gets smaller, I am going to be working down. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take some of this wood away. I want to leave enough wood so this holds on. But I'm working with my handle up and my bevel comes on. Now I haven't got this in an actual cut, so I can't exactly do a proper really thin finial. What I'm going to do is get some of this away. Probably still had it a bit thick really, but it works even whether for a small finial this would be better in a chuck. Okay, so what we're going to do is we come down. Hang on, I've reduced it. I'm going to take it down to a fraction. But what I want is that when my tool's level, it's bevel contact and the cutting edge cannot scrape. And when I come in to do little like this, see my bevel, I don't know whether you can see it there completely. You might actually, if you go around that side. I'll just get this a little bit ready. Okay, so my bevel now is in contact. See, look, if I come here, I can't even pick up a cut. Okay, so that's my bevel. So my bevel is in contact all the time. Okay, so I can make all these nice little. I'm not going to be able to go as thin as I'd like to because I'm between centres. Okay, when I come here I need to make a bit more, get rid of a bit more wood. Again, you can see this is full bevel contact all the time. That bevel does not come off of that wood. The last thing I want to do is scrape on something as you're coming down and doing some small work. See, this is all with bevel control. Even to do a little bead, it's got full bevel in touch. Now what I was saying about with detail gouges, with this, when you're coming around here, it's a lot harder to keep that bevel in control. And when you come to here, you actually come off of the bevel. And you start coming down. You can do very short bevels, but as this gets smaller, I mean I'm using it here okay, but as we get smaller and smaller, what you'll end up doing is you'll actually start coming unsupported with it to get in there, because this bevel, and what you'll do is look, using the tip to come over, can still work, but we're not getting that bevel support because we can't fit that bevel on. Okay, and it's shown up even more when it's actually even smaller. But with the carbide, we can still maintain the bevel. You come down, we've still got bevel. And that bevel stays into contact the whole time. And as long as that bevel is here, okay, and all we're doing to do our cut is rotating the tool like this. We're not pushing in, we're just rotating our tool. Tiny little bits of rotating, okay? See, as you come down and you've got to get rid of more wood, you have to make it in shallow cuts. But for every cut we make, that bevel stays in contact. Now, I know that as long as my bevel stays in contact there is no possible way of me getting a cut. I can make all these cuts totally just concentrate on what I'm actually doing, because I know I can't get a catch because my bevel's in control. Every single cut just comes in. My bevel, all it is rotating. Come into it, rotate over. As I go over the bead, because it's such a small bevel, my bevel still stays into contact as I come across. And the same, coming down here, I've got to change hands because I'm getting close to my wall. We stay in contact. Okay. We can pick up the finest of cuts. It's not a super thin finial, but it works. Now, I'll put that off out of the way. Now this one, it has the more pointy, okay, but it still has a bevel. This one has an even smaller bevel. Look how small that bevel is. Okay, forget the underneath bit. That is the bevel. From there up, it's probably just about 1.5 mm bevel, if that. But again, it's a bevel, so we can use it. We can really get in and do some fine cuts with it. You can't put that smaller bevel on your spindle gouge, you just wouldn't have it. You can see it there. That's the bevel from mine now up. Okay, it's literally, it's a 1 mm bevel. Okay, but we can ride that bevel. When we come in here, we can ride that bevel and maintain a bevel contact. Get in. Okay, we can maintain bevel contact, and we can come along here. I'll raise my handle a little bit. There's the bevel contact. It's going to fly off the end, so just be a bit gentle. Okay, and we can maintain bevel contact. And again, it's a very small bevel, but it's fantastic when you want to roll little beads and things. See, I can come across the top of that bead and my bevel doesn't leave the wood. Go, get rid of that fluff, like so. Put my bevel on and raise my handle, and I can get in a little peeling cut there. Enables me to get into small places. Okay, so that is it basically. So as long as we've got a bevel, and yeah, look, you can see the finish on that.
Yep.
Look, we've got no tear out. No, don't ignore this bit here on this edge. Here we've got no tear out, because with little things like this, you don't want to be coming here and having to sand out little bits of tear out, because if you've got to sand it, you've got to take those fine details. This isn't an ultra thin one. I can't, because I'm just between centres, it would snap. But as I said, as you can see, even with this small one, see how small the bevel is. Okay, it sits on there, and as long as we have bevel contact, it's fine, no catching. If you come along here and you're trying to turn these and you're using it on centre and you're doing it with a scrape, believe me, when you get down to these small bits, you are going to keep snapping off and you're going to get tear out. You don't want to be sanding out tear out. It's just not the done thing. It's just not cricket. It really is not cricket.
It's not cricket.
Right, so hopefully that helps and explains a little bit more with the bevel. And as you can see, we've done it with the bowl, we've done it with the spindle, we've done it everything, and we haven't had a single catch anywhere, okay? And you won't. And with that, you can then go and make your little finials. And if that I'd actually held that in a chuck, I would take that bit off, bring that more to a point, do that, put a nice little tenon on the bottom, and then you'd have a nice little finial to go into the top of a box or something, or onto a lid.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that to make your little finials. You'll always do a tiny bit of sanding because you get little bevel marks, basically, is what you get. But that's how you use the bevel on there. And all the time your bevel is in contact with the wood, you cannot get a catch. They just can't happen. The only time it happens is you lose concentration, your bevel comes off, bang, you get a catch. Or you're scraping with your tool. If you scrape with your tools, you will always get catches. You will perfect doing it, and you will get away with so much. You'll always get those catches, and you'll always have that when you're going to make those real cuts. You'll always have that where you can't get a fag paper between your arse cheeks because you are expecting that catch. Okay, if you turn like that, I could fit a book between my arse cheeks.
Encyclopedia.
Encyclopedia, full of knowledge. Right, there we go, guys. Hope that was. Now on the next one, I'm going to do a little bit on the SCHs. So if you're interested in them, and I must say they are fantastic. Now I get a lot of people ask me about with the tools. What tools do I recommend and stuff like that? And I'm not being what's with people. I mean, I have had people say I don't push my tools enough and stuff like that, but I will never try to make people spend money or recommend what you should spend your money on. Okay. The advice I give: standard Type 3 set will turn anything. Okay. Up to, I'd say use that up to bowls around about 10 inches in diameter. Now the problem is, I don't know what room you have around your lathe, whether you've got your lathe on a bench and you can't drop the handles down, things like that. So I've got the standard Type 3 set. I have it on a short handle set. I like short handles. Most of my tools you see have short handles. Okay, so they're turned exactly the same as the standard Type 3 set. It's just you've got short handles. I also do the pen set, which is basically a pen. It's a pen turn. It's a spindle set. It's exactly the same as a Type 3 set, but you only have a 4-inch bar and you have a 9-inch handle. Nice and short if you're mainly doing spindle work and stuff. I wouldn't use those for any bowls at all. Then from that, if you're doing 10-inch and above and you're mainly doing bigger bowls, then obviously I do the large chisel set, and that has the same cutters, does all the same work. There's nothing much you can change really with cutters. You've got a square, a round and a detail. Simple as that. So they come on a 12mm bar and a longer bar, so they get you a bit, if you're overhanging more on your tool rests for deeper bowls and things. With that, I would always recommend a box hollower. Absolutely, box hollower, 100% 9mm cut. It does fantastic work. Again, it's available on a standard. It's available in a short handle, the standard, which has a 6-inch 10mm bar, or you can get the number 2 box hollower, which comes on the 12mm bar, and it's longer and it's a heavier tool. Alongside that, it's got to be one of the SCHs. Like I showed yesterday. Now, with using the tools on the outside of bowls, flat cutters every time. Okay, flat cutters. You don't want the cup cutters on the outside of bowls, flat ones. You can do it with them, but you know, it's not exactly for the job. All right, I mean, it's like you can ask your plumber if he could quickly wire a socket up for you, but he's not an electrician, but he could do it. Okay, so it's that sort of thing. Each tool has a job. So the AU cutters, hollowing, they are hollowers. They're for inside of bowls. Ideally, standard Type 3 set does all your outside. Box hollower does all your smaller bits, and can do big bowls, but it's nice for smaller cuts, smaller places. SCH, right, you've got a range of SCH1, SCH2, SCH3, there's no SCH4 anymore, SCH5, SCH6, SCH7, SCH8. If you're going alongside your standard Type 3 set, SCH1, SCH 5 and SCH 6. Right, okay, SCH 5, 6, they're all on the 10mm bar. Okay, when you go up to the next side, the SCH 3, the SCH 2, the 3, the 7 and the 8, they're on 12mm bars, so they're for deeper work. You've seen them all, they're all on the website, you can have a look. I would recommend you decide what size your lathe is, what size bowls you'll turn, or what size fit pieces you'll turn. You wouldn't want an SCH 8 if you're doing little tiny bowls. You'd want the SCH 6. Okay, so when you're doing all these, and I always recommend start off making little things like this. Okay, and I'm going to actually use this piece, so I'll put a foot on it, to demonstrate with the SCH 6 and stuff like that, and I'll do a little bit more talk on that and about how to avoid the catches on those cutters, your AU cutters, because believe me, a catch on an AU cutter can be lethal. They don't take prisoners. So yeah, standard type 3 chisel set, box hollower and one of the SCHs. For any size bowls, you can, whether you're doing a tiny bowl like this or a bowl as big as that, the SCH 3 has got to just be the ultimate. I suggest it's one of the best tools I've ever made, really, that and the box hollower. It's just absolutely fantastic, brilliant. And all the other ones, they all fall into their place. They all have little jobs to do depending on what you want to do. The AU ones are literally, you have a 6mm carbide bowl gouge, an 8mm carbide bowl gouge, a 10mm carbide bowl gouge and a 12mm carbide bowl gouge. So your 1/2 inch, 3/8, 1/4 inch, what would the 8mm be? In between your 1/4 and 3/8. There you go. 2/8, I suppose. Whatever, right? And that's it. And they are literally equivalent. Those I would always use for your hollowing. And what I would do with them is I would always use your flat cutter. If you want to go in, if you're going to go in and you're going to scrape and you just want to push in, remove the guts, and I'll demonstrate it on one. Use your square chisel. Square, why square? Because it's the cheapest cutter to replace. You've got 4 sides, so you just spin it round, and it's the quickest one at doing it, and it will remove all the guts, and then you come in with your SCHs, you make 2 or 3 cuts and you've got a beautiful finish. If you want to get it out quick, if you're not in a rush, you can just use your SCH and do it all with that. They're fantastic tools. Right, but we'll talk about that when we do the SCH range. Okay, it's been long enough. Okay, you've taken up too much of my time. Bugger off. Let me get on with my day. Toodle pip, feddy do wells, and I just hope it's helping, guys.
Yeah. Bye, guys.